Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome back to From the Depths. And today we are once again procrastinating the things that I probably should be doing and that all you lovely people have requested I do. Because, well, for one thing, this week's been busier than usual, again. And I'm having too much fun with the new cram cannon. So, what you are currently looking at is something I cobbled together in just a few hours a day or two ago. And yeah, we're doing the custom faction thing again. It's hilarious and cool, and I've just noticed one of those turrets is stuck, and I should probably fix that. So yeah, so this is something I just cobbled together just to try out the new crams and see what new things you can do with them. And it's a lot easier to make an effective cram cannon now, I can tell you that much. But this is only the first of 3 things I want to show you guys. And yeah, that is a marauder we're currently ruining the day of. Right now. So yeah, great fun. So firstly, I'm gonna just quickly fix the turret rotation here because that annoys the hell out of me. This turret arrangement I did mostly for giggles, by the way, because let's face it, this is not great. This is not a great way to arrange a turret, simply because there's 2 directions in which it's just not going very well. So, there we go, and let's see, let's do this instead. So yeah, this particular custom faction, in case you don't know, their whole thing is that the only weaponry they really use has high explosive in it, so it's just high explosive crams, APS and missiles for the most part. And yeah, and so that's like already that's a wee bit of a handicap, not a huge one, but it's like, yeah, sorry, I can't concentrate like on fixing this craft and talking at the same time. It's hard for me. It's been a weird day. And so yeah, like and also their other shtick, for those of you who are new to this, is 2, 3, 4, there we go. Their other shtick is that the only structural materials they're allowed to use is wood and heavy armor, which, by the way, is a terrible armor scheme because it's combining, like, theoretically it sounds good because heavy armor gives quite a neat armor bonus to the wood, so let's just see that. That is multiple layers of wood behind the back end of heavy armor. And you see the AC is, well, at this precise angle, it's 157, but with the stacked wood, it's not great. And the deck armor is actually kind of ridiculous, because the deck is 3 meters thick, and it's heavy armor sandwiched between 2 layers of wood. It even has a spore liner of a sort, so just so that Hesh doesn't completely ruin its life. So, yeah, where's that other turret? Over here it is. So yeah, like this is the beginner faction, by the way. It's like the Deepwater Guard, but slightly wacky. Let's go here. There we go. Now that should get stuck slightly less. And we're gonna do that. Okay. So yeah, so what is the special at this thing? Not an awful lot. This is not a particularly godly or interesting design. The superstructure is very boring. It's mostly empty, and there's, like, I filled this bit here with wood just so it's less likely to fall off. And the turret designs I'm actually quite pleased with because they're very sturdy. This thing can solo a plunderer one-on-one in a fair fight, and apart from a minor whoopsie I had that the taller turrets didn't have proper heavy armor envelopment, they survive very well. They can take repeated big cram shots to the face because the wood gets blown off immediately, but the heavy armor and the heavy barrels can tank it like an absolute champ, and it's all very nice. Rubbish AA because it's only got... let's just do this quickly. Yeah, it's got rubbish anti-air because it's only got the 1 AI, and it's only got these 3 little simple weapon anti-aircraft guns on it. But yeah, also not painted. I'm considering leaving this faction almost completely unpainted or just doing something really simple. Something like this. Wait. So let's go there. Just making them a kind of, I don't know, uniform brown color. That, not that, not that. See, how does that look? That looks really terrible. Let's not do that. Although it does look quite good in black. Wait a minute. What? Dark blue and dark green. Interesting. Mainly because with my custom factions, I don't actually want to laboriously paint them in fleet colors, because that'll be slightly irritating, simply because I'll have to calculate how that looks. But I do actually quite like the look of this. It already looks a lot better, this kind of weirdly blue thing. If I do a little bit of red, how does that look? Not great. How about that? No, not that good either. Yeah, I dig it. Looks a little bit too modern though, so we're just gonna leave it like this for now. So yeah, decoration almost non-existent, ERA is kind of here, there, and everywhere. And let's spawn something for this thing to shoot at just while we're here. What do we got? Something decently sized. Let's have a Kingstead, because more than anything else, I want this first faction to be fun to fight. That's the main thing. I'm not really trying to make them really formidable or anything like that. It's just, it's real fun to shoot at them and just see... Let's take that off. And just see large chunks of it. Oh, oh, unfused cram shells are hilarious. Bouncing off them completely. Also surprisingly fast. By the way, we are in 2019 physics, which is why this thing has so many propellers on the underside of it. This thing cannot float without them, it's just too heavy. A better armor scheme rather than wood and heavy armor would probably be alloy and heavy armor, because that way it'll, at least a little bit, float a little bit better. So, yeah, that might be a better idea, but that's not what this faction's about. That is never going to stop being funny to me, how unfused crams can bounce like that. Seriously, look at that, it's just nothing. It also means that, oh yeah, so the AI on this thing is called Captain Christmas Cake. I really should start naming a craft AI after my patrons on Patreon, simply because that's something I keep forgetting to do. Apologies about that. And this is a very silly, evenly matched fight, because both of these craft are really well armored, but they're just their firepower is not great for dealing with armored targets. And most of the wood on this thing can actually get blown off without without affecting its fighting ability at all. So yeah, that's this is a fight that could go on for quite some time. And so yeah, what else can we talk about just while this thing is getting shot at? Okay, that is going to be non-stop giggles all the time. So what's in here? So actually, let's not do this. And Rambot, you can start preparing things again. And so what's in here? So ammo compartment. Well, so it's all compartmentalized. There's a lot of heavy armor on the inside. This thing is, if nothing else, not going to be easy to kill. Probably quite easy to sink, because just because the engines, such as they are less are not particularly well protected. There is this empty bit back here. Like, this has room for improvement. I don't consider this thing done yet. But yeah, so it's got the ammo compartment here, nicely secured in heavy armor, a little bit of a gap here as the ammo processes. And it's got the AI right here, general PIDs, and it is steam electric powered, and it is quite material hungry, by the way. So if I turn off resource giving, you'll see it's burning through materials quite fast. So real faction craft. I don't usually like making things like that, but my reasoning with this craft is like, you know what, just build something. Don't worry about optimizing it, because this is like the starting faction. They're meant to be fun to shoot at, and that's pretty much it. Probably don't even need this many ACBs. But yeah, so yeah, lots of batteries, lots of steam engines, lots of material storage. right here in the middle. The central citadel right here, so even if... so it is resistant to heat and hash. Like, I kind of made that way just, I don't know, just so you don't get an easy ride, a completely easy ride with the first faction. That would be no good, that would be no bueno. And lots of space in here that is probably filled with helium pumps rather than air pumps, but yeah. And also, it's got this little rudder at the front here, because that's good. 20 meters per second. Yep, lots of pitch props, because it needs it, because it's fat. Underside props, simply because I love doing this now. It's basically a very cheap way to get your thing moving. And these roll props, I have finally figured out, they respond both to altitude settings and roller settings. So they're doing two jobs at once. It's really nice. And lots of props down here. Uses quite a bit of power. And what else? The prop arrangement back here. Also, two large rudders. So, finally figured out how to get large rudders working properly. Here they are. Here's a little AA gun. It's just for giggles. Let's spawn in. This whole ship and this whole faction is basically for giggles. We're gonna see how well it does with stuff that does this. There goes my phone. That's probably my mother. So, crams might have 200 meters per second muzzle velocity now, but they're still pretty terrible against anything that moves remotely fast. And I don't think Shrikes work very well in 20... Oh, no. Okay. Yep, okay, so we're swinging around, And... Kablooey! And heavy armor to the rescue. And of course, like, it's okay against aircraft. It can be a threat to them, thanks to those little piddly AA guns. Not great at finishing them off. It tends to put them into a death spiral, or at the very least, these deepwater guard craft. It tends to do that, and then just kind of... That's kind of it. And these little guns, by the way, instead of having a secondary AI, which is the better way to do it, by the way, this is the kind of the lazy way to do it, it's set to only target things within 1,000 meters, so anything that's really fast moving, and what is your problem, dude? Yeah, I need to... There's very good reason not to ever, like, set up your craft like this. I swear I didn't. Oh, I didn't do it on that one. Right. There we go. There we go. Now she's fixed. Now she's fixed. BorderWise is YouTube professional, and he fixes his craft on camera. And yeah, timed fuses would probably make this whole craft a lot more powerful. But I use timed fuses all the time, pun intended. And yeah, it's not like, you know, you can take a break from such things. Okay, so we've managed to valiantly destroy very easy aircraft. So yeah, that'll do. So I don't know what this thing's gonna get named. Oh yeah, so I'm still gonna... The really good suggestion way back, long ago, the last time I made a kind of fun video like this, was to name the ships of this particular faction, the Heavy Armored Wood faction as I call them. They don't even have a real name yet. It's just to call them, just name them after explosives. And so yeah, I am going to be doing that, and there'll be settled names for these things once I've figured out just how big, just the size range, like the full capital ships and all that kind of stuff. I should also update the designs I already have for them, because that'll be a good idea. So, now what we're gonna do is, like, that's the only finished craft I've made for any of my custom factions for a while. So now, what you see here is I've got 3 planned ones, and mostly it's test fortresses, me figuring out the weaponry for them. So no vehicles for this one, which is all about being lightweight and speed. This faction is basically only going to be able to use alloy as a structural block, and I think that's really their only limit. Apart from that, yeah, they're gonna be pretty liberal in how you build them. And then EMP Kinetic, I also still don't have any vehicles for them, although I have a huge amount of test fortress for them, most of which I'm probably just going to not use. But there's two right at the top here, and for those of you who are interested in like real-life warships, you'll probably can already guess what these kind of things are. So, what prompted these designs, and what also kind of prompted this whole video, is that with the recent cram update, so the overhaul to how cram cannons work, I reasoned, hang on, so this faction suddenly got a lot more viable because two things happened. Fragmentation cram got buffed, so it's actually somewhat usable now. And also, EMP cram is fixed, so it's actually also useful because they've just tweaked things here and there. Like the previous, my video covering this is well, it's the last thing I uploaded, and it has a very thorough set of timestamps. I admit I got carried away making it. So here is the plan for a battleship that was basically its aesthetic and its weaponry was inspired by. I'm not trying to be super realistic with it. Important to note, because realism in From the Depths is actually kind of hard to do. Like if you try and make a one-to-one scale of like any real-world craft, be it a ship, be it a plane, be it anything, you've got your work cut out for you, because the smallest block you can make is 1 cubic meter, and that is pretty big. So this particular setup, as you might have guessed from the name, is inspired by the Iowa class battleship historically used by the United States. And so I don't actually remember which specific blueprints I was looking at while I was building these. And it's like, yeah, so it's basically the idea is you've got 3 triple barrel turrets, a very battleship-y arrangement, as Menti would say. And like it's got 12 secondary guns in 6 turrets, because future me, remember to chuck the blueprint up there right now. That's basically the main and secondary armament of the Iowa class battleship. Basically, like, I don't know which specific one is being showed on screen right now. I might future me mention which one it is, because there was more than one. And in particular, they lasted a really long time. I believe the USS Missouri was only retired in the 80s or something like that, which is a really long life for, like, firstly, a warship of any kind, and secondly, for a warship that was actually kind of obsolete even when it was built, although nobody at the time really realized that until later. So anyway, yeah, so let's go into what these things are. So let's start with the main guns, the smaller ones. So this is a penetration frag. So as you see here, it's massively stacked, equal mix between fragmentation and hardeners. And this was kind of viable before, it's more so now, simply because you'll see by the information there, there's a lot, these fragments do a huge amount of damage. And it has enough kinetic damage to punch in pretty deeply. So if we go here, it's inertial. And I should probably set that a bit lower, simply so it doesn't get deflected too much. In fact, I definitely should. Let's set that to 30. Let's set that to 30. And I'm going to do that manually on both of these guns because, well, I'm an idiot. So yeah, time from first impact, which I remember using the day. I used to use penetration depth a lot because it's kind of simpler to understand. But I'm really getting fond of the whole time from first impact thing. Simply because that's more versatile. You can happily penetrate a lot of different things, a lot of different materials, be it wood or metal or alloy or whatever. If you set it to a specific meter, it gets fooled by really thick armor, and it also gets fooled by it gets just basically, I don't know. They both have their advantages, but for the most part, time from first impact will see you right in most cases. So yeah, just gonna go over here, do this, that's not the right one, let's actually hop on the damn thing. Very exciting footage, me. So yeah, so what about copy paste, save the thing, like so. So yeah, it's gonna have 2 pen depth frags, max gauge by the way, so these things have decent rate of fire for crams. So it's about once every 15 seconds. Why does this one have so much. Ah, that's probably because it's not packed as much. Yeah, right. Yeah, so these things aren't completely even. Apology to the people in the audience who are obsessed with that. But yeah, so 6 pen depth grams, max gauge, in 2 turrets, one in the front, one in the back, just like the Iowa. And then this bigger one, this taller one, which is going to be a super firing turret mounted over the very frontmost main gun. This is EMP frag, simply because, like, that's something this faction is all about, by the way. It's like, is it EMP frag? Yeah, and it's quite lazily made as well. I just went into that and messed around with these settings in order to make this. It's it's very much identical to these 2 smaller turrets. It's just got a longer neck, lots of surge protectors in there. You can never have enough of those, I found. And where the hell is the EMP pellets? I actually don't see them. Wow. They're here. They're here somewhere. Where are they? They're definitely here. Yeah, because it's doing a decent amount of EMP damage. Where are they? Huh. This is... Oh, here they are. They're kind of really squirreled away in the middle. Which means that this center turret does... well, actually, no, not that much EMP damage. But a lot of frag damage. Definitely. So that's the... Did I mention... Yeah, this is the main shtick with this faction. Is that it's all about, as you can guess... The only limit on them is that the only kind of damage they do, really, unless it's completely unavoidable, is EMP or kinetic damage. So no high explosives at all. High explosive, flak, heat and hash, that kind of thing. Which arguably makes them less dangerous, but I kind of want it to be challenging. And again, I want them to be... It's very too much... It's really easy just to rely on spamming high explosive and heat and hash shells to get your way through the game, so I kind of wanted to challenge myself. And also, I have gotten a lot better at making a pen depth APS, I find, and it's just so much fun. And you'll note also that the mantlets, the front of this gun, despite my best efforts, the turret caps don't look anything like the real-life Iowa class's main guns at all. Kind of, it's vaguely reminiscent, but with crams there's only so much you can do, and mantlets are fiddly, and yes, that is I don't want to call it my trademark, but yeah, that is a mimic hidden. Where is it? Here it is. It's just a mimic hidden in the back of the turret, just to create that kind of mantlet look. Because I just love my rubber mantlets, man. They look cool. Same thing with these guys. And on the note of the secondary guns, these aren't winning any award. I'm tending to find that my secondary guns are shockingly lazy, and they're just basically there because, well, I don't know. It'll be weird if they're not there. So let's talk about this. So. These are 178mm twin guns, and arguably, like, you know, you shouldn't have, like, twin guns that are this small, there's no need for them. But, they're mostly here for giggles, so they are designed to, designed to punch through about 2 meters of metal and then explode, and just, there's a tiny wee frag warhead. 9 fragments, and that's what they do. Very high muzzle velocity, so they're basically there to scratch targets that the main crams can't touch, which is kind of the point of secondary weapons. They're pretty lousy AA apart from their speed, and this kind of twin arrangement means that they can... I do think that negatively affects their accuracy a bit. They're not super accurate to begin with. And yeah, these are... yeah, heavy barrel ends. You can't really tell that much. But yeah, like, I like this setup, and I can quite clearly picture in my head how this thing will look when it's finally built. But what am I saying? You want to see it shoot things, so let's shoot at a great target. Let's shoot at a bulwark. Bulwark, I think, has been fixed. Its crams were suffering a little bit. So you see there, it's 6 green shells, and 3 not green shells. And these are not timed fuses either, because I'm trying to wean myself off timed fuses. And the secondaries actually do decent damage. Like, on their own, they're not great. They are not amazing, but they can kind of peel off metal blocks. And as you can see, let's see what happened there. Like, I think how many of that did it? It got in the back of the turret, and this gun is gone. Pen depth frag can be very, very dangerous right now. So because According to Drobber himself, the dev who actually effected this cram change, like at higher gauges, frag cram can actually out DPS high explosive cram. So because, well, let's see what happened there. I think what happened here is, oh wow, that actually, that was better than I thought. It managed to punch through the side of it, and yeah, it punched in the side, knocked out some gauge increases right here. Let's see where else. What else happened? And EMP cram is fantastic. Like you can see the numbers up there on the top. Lots of kinetic damage. This bulwark is having a bad day. Not the strongest guns in the world, not the best, but like these are kind of fun. And you also notice slightly different rate of fire for the guns. And of course the downside with time after first impact is that they do tend to, particularly time after first impact frag crams, is that when they overpenetrate they do actually nothing. Like if you stick timed fuses on time after first impact cram, which has high explosive on it, it can kind of punch through a superstructure, get just on the other side of it, and then explode and still do something. Not so much if you use frag, so this is kind of a downside of it, but hey, like faction rules, man. What would life be like if we just took the easy route all the time? Fire again for daddy, come on. Yeah, the rate of fire on these things is not great. It fires about 10 rounds per minute, which, like, by real-life standards, a 178mm gun, especially if you're talking World War II era technology, that's pretty good. Not very good in From the Depths, in fact, pretty bad. And for those of you who hate real-life craft, and you, well, hate people talking about it in video games, and especially From the Depths, well, I'm sorry, but I'm having a good time, and so are other people, so. Yeah, like, those, I absolutely love what these pen depth frag guns, what they can do to turrets, because if they hit a turret cap, they often, like, they just sever it completely, because they just sever all the important blocks that are holding things together. I need to check that. Enjoy the crammage for a second, that's probably important. Oh, that's handy. Yay! I'll just quickly reply. Whee! Great! Okay, that's enough of that. Oh, I do want to show you guys, and here's the wonderful thing about very heavily crammed max gauge crams, particularly if you stick hardeners on them, so I should really look at that. No, I'll look here, I'll look here. This thing's main armament is actually decently lambs-proof, because, where's the shell health? There it is. So, this 2000mm cram, just because it has a bit of extra compacting, I guess that's what you call it. The shell health is quite high. It's 13, just shy of 14,000, reduced to 95% by fuses. That's a lot, so you need a decently meaty lambs in order to take out just the shells coming from this turret. And if you stick hardeners on them, lots more health. So we go here, that's, I just literally forgot what it was, like twice as much health basically, like just shy of 33,000 health. So, before you ask, yeah, this particular armament setup is not gonna do the Megalodon, but on that note, we will demonstrate the next wee fortress that I've made guns with. So we've got here, EMP Kinetic, Test Fortresses. So we've got the Iowa-inspired guns, and now we've got the Richelieu-inspired guns, because, call me, French-biased, I guess, because I love to talk in a French accent, it is so fun. I quite like, I think my favorite battleship design from World War II is the French Richelieu. And this is, well, definitely, you have to hasten to admit that this is inspired by the Richelieu. Future me put pictures of the Richelieu class up on screen right now so people know what you're talking about. This is definitely inspired by it. It's, like, surprisingly hard to actually make like a spot-on Richelieu turret, especially if you do what I was doing here, which was using making railguns. So These guns are spaced the way they are just so these the railgun magnets aren't attached to multiple firing pieces. I found out the hard way while building this that is what happens. I could have actually spaced these central two out a bit more so they could be a little bit more central, but you know what, I'm just going to kind of leave it the way it is. Rubber mantlets, well, rubber mimic mantlets at least, and the real-life Richelieu only has like 3 secondary rear guns in the back. This has 4 simply because, I don't know, it might have 3, it might have 4, but also because I just like the symmetry of it. And these are a little bit different. I can't remember how exactly they're different. I really should have just... Oh yeah, duh, they're different. These are triple barrel. So these are 179 millimeter wee guns. Also pen depth. And it's got that kind of, like, this is real... yeah, this is idiot Tetris. So it's like, this should not be triple guns. If you actually want to have an effective APS gun of any kind in, like, this kind of space, at this height, and this 3x3 little space, not counting the armor... you should really make it a single gun. Really, really should. Like, there's not much point to making a triple, except, you guessed it, for giggles. And also because the real-life inspiration has them. And it's just, I don't know, I just like landing 3 of these shells in the same place. It actually does decently. So, let's go over here to the shell. To the shell. So, this is the shell. 179 millimeters. So, this is a little bit different. So, a similar story, 2 meters of metal, or with any like 2 meters of metal, like testing with this, I don't think it always manages that because armor values tweak it around a bit. Punches through 2 meters of metal, so not very deep at all, and then it explodes and puts some fragments on. And it knocks blocks off with every shot, and that's what counts. So, that's very nice. And also, I tend to find that... particularly paired with these main guns, and we'll go over them in just a second, these things have a habit of exploiting any holes made by the big guns. Because this is quad-barrel 500mm pure railguns. So, if we go over here, there's 2 types, so... And this is, I might eventually make whatever the ship this goes on a front-sider, as opposed to a broadsider, simply because the Richelieu's design... lends itself well to that kind of thing, because it's like, its really big guns are pointing forwards, and behind it's got considerably less. Now, in real life, the French, they did that in order to drop the weight down, because turrets are heavy, and so the more guns you jam into a single turret, the less weight it is, because there were strict treaties post-World War I about how heavy battleships could get, which the Germans and Japanese proceeded to ignore completely, so... that's hilarious and cool. Like, you should never expect... Okay, yeah, I am gonna say it. You should never expect the bad guys to follow the rules, because they kind of are the bad guys precisely because they don't follow the rules. And aren't very nice. So anyway, let's talk about the shells. This front one is pure kinetic. It is pure railgun hollow points. So let's go look at that shell. So it's just a whole bunch of hollow points. And, well, no, one hollow point and a whole bunch of sabot rounds. Lots of thump damage, not great armor pierce. This doesn't do full damage to metal. I find that doesn't matter when you have this much thump damage. It, like, doesn't matter one bit. 20,000 rail draw, so not amazingly fast, but very fast. And the shell health is ridiculous. So Lambs basically does nothing to this. Which also means it's quite conveniently a Lamb spoof, because it lobs 4 of these things at once. They're very fast, Lambs gets distracted, and it just rips chunks off things quite nicely. And this rear turret is pen depth frag, so this faction could be using a lot of pen depth frag because they can't use high explosive, and they can't use flak, or basically any kind of chemical warhead, apart from EMP. And I suppose frag kind of counts as chemical warhead. So here's what they use. It's this punches quite deeply into a target, so this can quite happily... So that'll happily go through many layers of metal, even a few layers of heavy armor if it manages to get in there. It does really scary frag damage, 18 fragments spilling out in all directions, over 6,000 damage each, lots of solid warheads, lots of that. Also quite fast, so once again, Lambs have real trouble with this, even though it's got less health than the other shell, but it's slightly faster, so that's a pretty good way to go. So Before we light up the Megalodon with this, let's light up the tier. And I really... Okay, so where's the tier? Tier is here, and you'll also notice that just for the sake of convenience, this fortress actually has combat routines on it, simply so I don't have to babysit it. And I love the way these guns fire, and the tier is already having a really bad day. So fire again. So you see secondaries are just leaving scratch marks, and then the main ones are gouging things a bit. So that was the railguns, and that was not the not railguns. And we're making a bit of a mess of the tier. The tier isn't the best benchmark for like godly craft these days, because it's she's not as scary as she once was. I could actually tweak those Pendep shells a little bit more, because they could be better. And you can see just like little holes appearing like here, there, and everywhere on the tier. Particularly here, like a lot of the railgun shells are landing around here, and they just they have the effect. It actually synergizes pretty well, like all together, because the hollow points peel off strips of armor, and then the Pendep guns, both in the main turret and in the secondaries, they actually have less less to penetrate in order to ruin the day of things. So they tend to melt armor off pretty miss. These aren't, again, they're not real, like, incredibly meta weapons. But I quite like them. They're scary enough. They are scary enough. Wow, that was embarrassing. Maybe I should tweak the settings on those main guns, because I remember doing better than this. Let's have a look at the internals here. So it's quite happily punching in. Oh hey, snooker table. Let's see here. Not getting in the steam engines yet. Wow. Didn't know that the tier had that. We're not getting in far enough, so I might need to fix that, because I want this thing to pop a tier's turrets off. Oh, hello. We're already damaging that turret. Also, I tend to find that these particular main guns tend to sink things simply because they open up so many holes. Yeah, big holes, big holes. See daylight straight through it. Of course, I could go full railgun for both of those main turrets, but I kind of don't want to. I should tweak something with them. Oh, yep, that something blew off there. Yeah. These things also, they are rigged to fire to attack underwater occasionally. Yeah, like, I could watch this all day, I really could. And the hollow points just deleted the superstructure. Oh dear, there go your missiles. Okay, let's shoot at the Megalodon a bit, because that's fun and hilarious. And let's actually jump on the fortress. It does take a while, but I tend to like, in case any of you are actually wondering about how to successfully shoot the Megalodon, beat it at its own game with railguns. It works pretty well. And if you're worried about it shooting back, cover the entirety of your ship in rubber, because that's hilarious. And let's go... Let's shoot at the Megalodon a bit. I don't think the final version of like this Richelieu-inspired thing will be able to 1v1 a Megalodon, but it's enough to know that she can at least damage it. So lambs can't really do anything, even though the lambs does kind of zap shells out of the way. Of course, the Megalodon also has is pretty big and has spaced armor, which is a kind of a pretty good defense against a time after first impact fuses. Hello. Oh, that looked important. Also, the faster your shells are, the more likely you are to hit the Megalodon, because it has that infernal ECM jammer just on it. And before you ask, yeah, like, again, I should mention the previous guns I was talking about, the ones inspired by the Iowa, they can't touch the Megalodon, unfortunately. It's really hard to, like, deal with the Megalodon using cram cannons, because they're just not good at it. They just really aren't. Even now, now that they move a little bit faster, they have less health than they did before, so... yeah, wow, we are really peeling this off. Come on, hit her in the turrets, guys. Bang! Let's look at these things a little bit. Man... I can picture the finished craft of this pretty well. Like, I think these two... like, also this final faction, because this is going to be the boss faction, they are... I should mention as well, they're also going to be quite heavy on the particle cannons and lasers. The aesthetic I'm imagining for them is just that, they just... I don't know, so it's like a World War II and Cold War inspired craft, but with like a really futuristic twist, so... if they're not going to be armed with just crams and APS, they're also going to be packing a lot of lasers and a lot of particle cannons, and a crap ton of missiles. Big missiles too. Like, just like, hey, it's like for you real-life ship nerds, it's like how the USS Missouri. I think at one point in her service history they stuck like cruise missiles on her and stuff, which is a very scary thing, and like a real like pretty decent thing to stick on a battleship actually, because it's big enough to carry quite a lot of them. And the longer range you have on the battleship, and the further away you can blow things up. What's the material efficiency of this? It's actually not bad. Like, the material efficiency, I tend to find... if you're at, like, a 1 material destroyed for each unit of ammo, if you're using APS at all, I think you're doing pretty well. Like, I haven't done the math on that, but, yeah, like, I think it's pretty okay. I definitely need to tweak the penetration settings on that one main gun, because I feel it can get a lot deeper than this. Might have to actually do some math. Wouldn't that be a thing? Yeah, this is, by the way, with the Megalodon, I think it is a really good idea just to, like, with your aim point selection, so let's go over here, let's ignore the exciting action for a second. I think it's a good idea to, like, leave this unchecked, because since we're getting quite a handy X-ray of the Megalodon right now, thanks to our big scary guns, our big scary French-inspired guns, they fire armor-piercing croissants. What you'll notice is that the kind of top half of it is kind of empty. It's like not actually filled with much. It's like big air gaps. So there's not actually a lot important, like apart from the turrets themselves, which are well protected, and all the important stuff, like all the, like, look at this, like this is, what is that? Like, yeah, this is ammunition, like the bulk of the turrets, like the power RTGs I see here, and just like all the huge like steam engines and just all that stuff, the lambs, it's all below the waterline. And so I found that if you try and shoot only at what's above deck, you aren't going to disable her like anytime soon. It's going to be quite a long haul. Let's just duck under here. Let's see what's here. Also, if you have big shells that go below the waterline, they duck out of range of the lambs, so that's quite nice. So you see, right? You see there, we're getting into these layers of heavy armor here, there, and everywhere. actually deleting a few of them as well. And it's just those pen depth and hollow points are getting dangerously close to actually... Oh, I think they actually... No, they haven't done anything yet. Come on. Yeah, this is real fun. Really should make a most wanted on the Megalodon. Like, sooner rather than later. As soon as I can build a ship that can 1v1 it, and I do mean a ship. Maybe you could just stealthy space bomber. I'm rambling now. I'm just... Come on, let's see you kill this thing. I'm actually pretty pleased with how these turrets look. Again, they don't look tremendously a lot like their real-life inspiration, but I like them anyway. It looks cool. Like, aesthetics are fun. Who knew? Like, did you know? Yeah, you probably did know, but I only figured that out relatively recently. Like, props to whoever did most of the work on the Megalodon. This thing is, like, pretty resilient. It's being pounded at for quite some time. Also, I know that somebody in the comments is going to remind me that Lathrix managed to beat this thing. It was like, pretty, like, he did beat it in his adventure mode playthrough, if you've been following that. But it was a weird fight. It really was. Like, his ship sank to the bottom of the ocean because of, like, the Megalodon, like, disabled something in it, and like, hello. And, like, it repaired on the ocean bottom. It was just really hilarious. Now see the innards of the Megalodon. She's starting to sink! Look at that. One more reason to aim below the waterline, in case you ever wondered about that. Just got a lag spike right there. So yeah, like, will this faction actually be more dangerous than any of the factions in Nita? Since it's only me making it so far, probably not, but if I... Like, I will be... I should hasten to mention that for these custom factions, I'm not currently accepting submissions for them. Not really. Kind of, sort of, but please, like, I don't know. Don't be in any rush to build anything to send to me, by the way, because that'll be jumping the gun, game isn't finished yet, and, like, I haven't even finished considering my options for it. Come on. There we go. That, ooh, yes. Now we're finally getting in there. We're getting finally in there. Actually, just getting through this stupid craft's lambs is like, once you do that, it's half the battle won, because it means you can finally touch it. I do love the secondaries on the Megalodon, by the way. They're so cool. Yep, we are... Oh, I wonder what this shell's gonna do. It was weird. It did that. Come on. Come on. The people want to see you sink. Like, this is me blatantly just wasting everyone's time right now, but I really do just love to see this thing die. This is actually, if you wonder what a lot of my time in From the Depths is spent doing, it's this. It's testing turrets. And just watching them sink things. Actually, you know what we should do? We should speed this up. Aim right here. That's right, get in there. And now aim right there. See what happens. Let's see what happens. Come on. Hee hee hee! Aim right here. Let's see what happens. What, we know what's gonna happen, actually. Oh, look at that! That looked bad. Yay! Okay, that's probably enough. I probably should leave this here, but I guess nice final shot right there. Like, I'm gonna finish watching this thing die off screen. But, yeah, so that's basically where we're at with the custom faction right now. Just thought I'd share that because it's fun. It is real fun. And it's also getting me to build outside my comfort zone. So, yeah, that's hilarious and cool. So, yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon if you like, it really helps. Thank you to all my current Patreon supporters, and I will see you next time in From the Depths. And if you have any suggestions for like my custom factions, like feel free to share. No guarantees I'll follow any of them. I don't even follow my own suggestions half the time, but yeah, share. Sharing is caring. Farewell.